welcome back to another episode of Taking Action, Making Connections. I'm joined again today with Austin, who is our plumbing expert. Let's just dive right in, why don't we? Today we're talking about the history of plumbing versus kind of new plumbing and where we've been versus where we're going.
Excellent. I really appreciate being here again. Thank you so much for asking me to come. I enjoy every opportunity that I get to speak with you, Annie, and to be on the podcast. So thank you again.
Of course. Okay, let's dive right in. The first question, what is the difference in lifespan as far as older plumbing versus what you would put in today?
So that's a pretty tough question to answer. And mainly it depends on how well you take care of your plumbing. Okay. The newer stuff is designed basically to never fail, right? They call it like 100-year shelf life. But it is susceptible to different weaknesses than older stuff. Metals, which is your traditional plumbing, coppers and galvanized steel, corrode. They corrode, which causes rust to break into your water, which causes holes to form and leaks that way. New plastic doesn't corrode. But there are certain types of plastic that get brittle and can crack and break. Chlorine and other chemicals have negative effects on the plastic where it can cause it to crack over time and then again create holes and start to leak. And so if you have a water softener or filter systems in your house, it's going to make your plumbing last a lot longer. If you don't, then a lot less. Depends on how much the city puts chemicals in there and like what they're doing to it too. So there's a lot of factors. At the end of the day, just like a car, right? If you change the oil in your car, if you take care of your car with regular maintenance, it's going to last longer. So no matter what you have, if you are doing your regular maintenance, it's going to last a lot longer than anyone that's not doing it.
Okay, absolutely. So for like homeowners that just got new plumbing, I'm assuming, you'd install the different PVCs, the plastic, stuff like that, rather than metal. For them, as far as like chemical drain cleaners, like over-the-counter chemical drain cleaners rather than professional plumbing drain cleaners, are those putting your new pipes at risk if you do use them?
Yes. So those chemical drain cleaners, when sitting and reacting, can create heat. And heat and plastic aren't the best. They're not the best of friends, let's say, okay? Sometimes they don't work well together. And so what you don't want to use are those rough acid-based ones. They make these ones that are enzyme-based, and also they're more natural chemicals. And so they work a lot better and they have less damaging effects on your pipes. There's one that we offer. It's called Total C. It's like orange based, so it smells really nice as well. And it doesn't damage your pipes at all. So that's what we would suggest as a professional. Don't use those hard chemicals. Use something that's natural based and enzyme, and that's going to help clean things up a lot better.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense, for sure. All right, the next question we have here. The average person spends 3 years of their life in the bathroom, but most people don't understand the mechanics of their own bathroom fixtures. Can you explain how a toilet works?
Yeah, would you mind if I drew us a quick picture?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, let me stand up here. Now, I am not an artist, so this is going to be a little bit rough, okay?
I'm excited.
All right. So we've got a basic toilet here, and then we'll have a drain pipe. It'll come down, and let's say it goes down this way too. Okay. For some reason, my toilet bowl was not connected. That's not good. Okay, so let me just draw a little water line, and I'll get some swirlies in there for us. So toilets are pretty simple things. They're fed by gravity, okay? Gravity and pressure, but not pressure like when you turn your faucet on, the water pressure coming out, it's pressure more like weight, okay? So in here, in this toilet tank that fills up with water, that's the only time you'll actually have pressurized water going into this toilet. So pressurized water comes up into the tank. When you flush it, when you hit the handle, the water comes down and starts to fill this bowl up. That's where the weighted pressure comes in. So as it fills up, it gets to a point where the water is pushing down and then eventually starts to come down here, right?
So is this like peak where it drops? Is that where your toilet actually flushes?
Yeah, that's pretty much where it actually flushes. And if you think about the way that water works, okay, have you ever siphoned anything before?
Yeah.
Okay, so the way siphoning works, and that's a lot like how your toilet is, as long as the point of suction is lower than the water supply, you can create a flow, okay? And so that's what we're doing here with your toilet. We're creating this vacuum pressure that as this fills up and as the water starts to get here, it starts to pull it out, and that's why you get the really satisfying and it just goes away, okay? As all that water goes out, it then comes down here into your drains and continues to flow down, all by gravity.
All by gravity.
All by gravity. There's no water pressure pushing it. That's why flushable wipes are a no-no, because they will get stuck in there. There's nothing to physically push them through. As much as they say flushable, they're not, right? You can't put too much toilet paper even in there. Paper towels are terrible. So there's just a lot of things that don't belong in toilets because they aren't pressurized. They're not meant to be forced through. And so we do have to be slightly sensitive with what we're putting in there.
Okay, so when you flush it and the water comes into the bowl, is that just like little pipelines, or you said that's the only pressurized water, so there are jets?
No, so there are these things called jets, but that's not pressure. That's still just gravity.
Okay.
So jets are the things that create the swirl. So there's going to be little ports inside of your toilet bowl, which is going to direct the water one way, okay? And that's going to create your little whirlpool right there, right? And so yeah, that's what that is.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you for that explanation. Oh, here's a great question. Is it true that the swirl or the direction of the flow in a flushing toilet is reversed in the southern hemisphere?
That's a great question. I think we should TikTok that one because I have no idea. I've never been down there, never seen a toilet down there. Although I was in Arizona, and does that count as a southern hemisphere?
Oh, gosh, it really feels like it does.
Honestly, I didn't pay attention to the direction of the swirl. Next time I go down there, I'll be sure to check.
Oh, thanks for checking the swirl. As far as I know, the water flow is determined by the direction of the jets in the toilet, like you kind of just explained.
Yeah.
Jets determine the swirl, so southern hemisphere, they probably, just build toilets different?
Or a different brand of toilets, different manufacturer. Yeah, or there was a disgruntled employee who said, I'm going to do this backwards.
I'm going to do this backwards.
Yeah, just mess with someone.
Okay. How can updating plumbing and water systems improve the water quality in your home?
Yeah, so that's a big one because, old galvanized water lines, it's galvanized steel. And if anyone's taken bare steel and exposed it to water and air, it instantly starts to rust. Okay, just right away it starts to rust. Then they put this coating of zinc on it. And the zinc is supposed to protect it from corrosion. Only protects it for so long. Actually, it's not that long of a time, okay? Now, as it starts to corrode, you create rust. That rust is inside of your water. And that's not something that's good to drink. I mean, does our body need zinc? Do we like zinc? Yes, but getting actual metal flakes and things like that into our water systems isn't the healthiest for us. So getting rid of that and adding in plastic PEX that's not going to corrode, that's not going to wear down over time, the same way metal would, is going to improve the quality of our water in taste and in color significantly.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I used to live in a house that the water at the beginning would always come out copper colored.
Yeah.
Which...
that rusty
It's
color.
rust.
Yeah, that rusty color is not great. The other thing that happens with corrosion is that the actual flow improves as well. So if you take a pipe, right, let's say it's a 1-inch pipe, the pipe is gonna have a certain amount of thickness itself, okay? And you're gonna have, let's say on the inside, 3/4 of an inch of flow. Well, when it starts to corrode, you get all this buildup in it. And so then that 3/4 of an inch maybe goes down to 1/2 an inch. And we've seen extreme cases sometimes where it's even less than that. And it's just hardly even a pinky finger of flow. And then what happens is you tune on your shower and you flush the toilet and you've got these drips just coming out and you can't even take a normal shower, right? You can't even live normally. And so we see that all the time. And so anytime we cut these pipes and we see that, oh, this big 1-inch pipe actually has less flow than this little marker, yeah, it's pretty much expected at this point with the age of those type of pipes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So our next question here is, how has improved plumbing assisted water conservation?
So one of the best things about today's modern plumbing fixtures is that they do actually conserve a lot of water. One of the easiest examples of that is the amount of water that's actually flushed in a toilet, right? The more recent versions of toilets would flush 1.6 gallons per flush, okay?
That's a lot.
A lot of water. Now they're brought down to 1.2 gallons per flush. And even now, even more recently, you'll have these, instead of having a toggle switch, you'll have like a button, right? And you'll have 2 sides to it.
Yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah. And what that'll do is, let's say you're going number 1, as my mom taught me, number 1 and 2, okay? You could do a half flush.
Which flushes half as much, I'm assuming.
Of this one, yeah.
Okay.
Just does a little half flush because it's number 1. You don't need that much water. Doesn't need a lot of pressure to build up to take away liquids, right? So you save even more. Or if it's a number 2, well, then you get a full flush because that's what it takes to get that guy out of there, right? So there's, sorry.
You're fine.
So yeah, so today's modern fixtures, and this is just one example of toilets. There's a lot more out there. They do a great job at using a lot less water.
Oh, okay. That's amazing. I mean, thank goodness there's stuff out there that'll help us conserve water. The next question is, how can updating my plumbing system help me save money in the long run?
So one of the biggest things with updating your plumbing system is going to be preemptively fixing issues that are going to arise, okay? Water, obviously, whenever it exits a pipe, gets things wet, all right? Whether that's inside your sink where you want it, or in the middle of a wall where you don't want it, it's gonna get something wet. And so as your old plumbing starts to develop holes because it's corroding over time, it's going to create a lot of damage, especially in drywall, insulation, mold, right? Your flooring, there's 1,000 things that it can damage. Your couches, your TVs, if it's falling on top from another room above. And so the ability to stop that from ever happening, if you have the type of pipe, if your pipes are corroding, if they have the signs of bad wear and tear due to age, then yeah, at that point it's like, hey, you can wait for this to start to leak and start to flood your house, or we fix it before that happens because you're going down that road and we know where it ends and we don't want to see you there. And most people choose to do it that way. As soon as they usually have one small problem or during an inspection discover there's a few things about to happen, they say, hey, you know what? I'd rather avoid all that headache. Let's just get it taken care of.
Yeah. Well, and it makes a lot of sense. Being proactive rather than reactive is going to save you money in the long run.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I can see why. In what ways do plumbing codes change? Do you know of any plumbing codes that have recently changed that homeowners should look out for?
Yeah, so code does 2 things for us, okay? Number 1, it ensures that we are learning lessons, okay? The reason why code changes is because we figure out there's a better way to do something. Usually, the old adage where one person ruins it for everyone is kind of similar. So we learn through failure, hey, by plumbing this way, it actually can create a bigger problem in the future. And it's not that it happens every single house, but it's that it's happened enough to where now we need to avoid it in the future. And one of the big changes came back several years ago, and I like to use this example, was our pressure in our house, the actual water pressure. Before it was unregulated. And they said, hey, you connect these steel pipes together, they can hold hundreds of pounds of pressure, and we're gonna be good, okay? As materials changed, as our fixtures changed as well, they realized that we had to control the amount of pressure coming to our houses. So they created this thing called a pressure relief valve. And it reduces the pressure in the house so that we're not getting the full force from the city. Otherwise, what can happen is your faucets, your water heater, things will start breaking because there's too much pressure in your house. It can cause your pipes to start knocking. So if you turn on the water, if you turn on your laundry and you ever hear some knocking noises, your pressure valve is probably starting to have an issue and needs to be at least looked at, if not replaced. And so that was something that they've learned over time. Hey, this is actually causing floods in people's houses. We should probably turn down the pressure here. So
I need to turn down the pressure in my house anyways. It's just really high and I get sprayed a lot by my sink.
yeah, that's not good. So
I know.
Your pressure valve is probably
Not in the right place.
not in the right place.
What is
yeah.
the recommended pressure level for a home?
So anywhere from 55 to 75 is going to be safe and functional levels. It really depends on type of pipes and size of the house and the way things are plumbed. I've seen houses at 55 that have amazing pressure and work great. I've seen other houses at 55 where they're like, this is not even close enough. We turn it up to 75 for them at those places. House by house it differs, but typically between that 55 and 75 mark is just about perfect.
Okay. I'll make sure to check on that when I get home. Our next question here is it okay to flush a goldfish down the toilet?
Is it okay or have I done it? Because
Both.
both. Yeah, I've done it plenty of times.
Okay, did you have a lot of fish growing up?
Yeah, we did buy fish specifically to flush them down the toilet. Not a good idea, as I'm thinking about it now.
Why would you just buy fish for the sole purpose of flushing them down the toilet?
You know, I grew up in a house full of brothers, and so there was always dares and always challenges and things that we were doing. And you see something on TV, you want to go try it. And bless,
Kept buying fish to
bless my mother's soul. Yeah, she was a single mom, so we didn't have too much supervision some days because she had to hold 2 jobs to support all of her kids.
so that you guys could buy goldfish.
Yeah, and that was one activity that we did enjoy, flushing goldfish. But it is not okay to do that. So,
Okay.
I mean, you know, we're putting this water back into our treatment plants and into ecosystems, and just sending in random fish can definitely damage or definitely not help those type of things as well.
Okay. What kind of things should I not send down my drain? Like not just my toilets, but like my sink drains.
So as far as drains are concerned, toilets are going to be human waste and toilet paper. That's it. Okay. Everywhere else, it's gray water. So you want in your kitchen, your disposal is not meant to take a bunch of food. You're supposed to clean off your plate 100% as much as you can, and that 1 grain of rice that's left over that accidentally slips in, that's okay, right? So just a little bit. And I see your face, Annie, and we got some things we have to correct here, okay? So it's really just meant for just that little bit in there, and that is even supposed to be ground up before it goes down your normal drains as well, okay?
So when I was a kid, I was told that eggshells, when you grind them up, they clean your drains, and lemon peels.
Yeah, that's so false. That's so false.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, not too long ago, went to a house where they shoved a bunch of peels and things down their drains and into their disposals on purpose, completely clogged it up. And not only did they clog up the water lines, but they ended up breaking their disposal, and so they had to replace their disposal and clean their drain lines out. So not a great idea.
I'll be a lot more careful.
Please do.
One of the reasons we're not supposed to flush goldfish down the toilet, by the way, is because goldfish grow to fit the body of water they're living in. The biggest goldfish was fished out of a lake and weighed 67 pounds, and there should be a picture of that on screen.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big goldfish.
That's a very large goldfish. Imagine all the ones you flushed down. I wonder if any of them got to 67 pounds.
I hope so. I hope so.
As well.
Release them into the wild.
Yeah, to actually live instead of being about to be flushed down a toilet.
Yeah.
Our next question, can rats swim up the pipes of your plumbing?
Rats are great swimmers. And yeah, I would believe that 100%. I've never seen it in real life. The hardest part is going to be access, right? Where do they have access to your pipe in order to swim up it? Mm-hmm. Usually there isn't a lot of access. Also, usually your pipes don't have a lot of water in them. They should never have water in them unless it's flowing, okay? And so for a rat to be able to physically climb up a pipe and then get into your toilet, I think that's going to be next to impossible. But yeah, they're great swimmers. I would say absolutely they can.
Here is a video.
Oh yes.
Of a rat.
Let's watch
getting into a toilet.
The underwater passage leaves no room for error. At a turn, the rat finds a pocket of air, just enough to help it push on to the end of the line. How does it collapse its body like that?
That's amazing, yeah. Rats are great swimmers. It'd make a lot of sense in like an apartment building or a city type situation where they have a lot more access to our pipes. Single family houses, just like a regular house, I doubt that has been experienced very much.
I'm sure that would kind of be terrifying. I can't imagine how I'd feel if I found a rat, living or dead, in my toilet.
Yeah. That'd be quite scary.
Okay, our next question here is, what are the dangers of having old plumbing?
So that's one thing that we sort of addressed a little bit earlier. One of the dangers is having, number one, quality of water that you're drinking, that you're showering in, having that rust, not just in color, but in taste and actual materials, getting into your body, not great. Number two is, as it rusts, as it corrodes, it creates holes that can create a lot of flooding issues and a lot of damages to your actual house.
Yeah, I can see how that can be extremely problematic, actually.
Yeah, not great. And then, I've been in a situation where I've had to have a bunch of drywall torn out, and I've had restoration, and that was a flood, actually because of my washer failing. So thankfully that wasn't my pipes. That'd be a little bit embarrassing as a plumber to have my own pipes, break on me. It does happen quite often. Mm-hmm. So no, yeah, that's the biggest things is number one, quality of water. Number two, damages to your house caused by failing water lines. Number three would be inconvenience, right? And as you lose pressure, as you lose the ability to use your house normally, it becomes quite the inconvenience, especially if you have children. Use a lot of water. Like I have 4 kids, and so the laundry is always on. It's just always on. The shower, the bathtub, half the day it's on as well, right? The toilet, I have 4 boys. It works overtime, okay? And it's, it's one of those things like, hey, I have a big family, and so my plumbing gets a lot of abuse all day long from these guys. And thankfully, my poor wife, she has to deal with it. I'm out working all day. And so,
bye.
Yeah, bless her heart, she takes care of it. So, but no, then it's one of those things. If you have any sort of kids or anything like that, if it's just you and you go out and you're working a 9 to 5 and then you come home, very little usage. But if there's anything more than that, typically there's a lot.
4 kids, you and a wife?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot.
I can only imagine. What issues do you look for when inspecting old plumbing lines?
So there's 3 things that we look for. Number one is, I call it safety. And that's going to be not just, it's more like well-being, right? So quality of water, also any potential areas that can damage your house. And so just the quality of what you have going on there, all right? Is your house safe or well? Are you going to be safe and well? The second thing I look for is functionality. Do you have correct pressure in your shower, in your kitchen? Is your water getting hot enough? Is it getting cold enough, right? Are your valves actually mixing the waters correctly? And so are your shut-off valves functioning, able to turn them and turn off? Most people don't know this, but if you don't turn that valve every so often, it'll get stuck. And then whenever you need to turn it off because your house is flooding, you won't be able to turn it. And as strong as I may think that I am, there's times when I'm cranking on a valve and I just can't get it to turn.
Okay, so the things I've learned so far that I really need to go home and do is lower my water pressure, stop putting things in my disposal, and go turn my emergency water shut off just in case.
Yep, just make sure if it is an older style one, if you turn it, it can start leaking. So if you see that's an older style one, give us a call and we'll get that taken care of for you.
Absolutely, I will.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, our next question is, what is the most outdated plumbing system you've seen, and what was the restoration process like?
So one of the older houses I've been to is from the early 1900s, and they had old galvanized water lines and cast iron drain lines, the entire system. And they had a couple of leaks going on in their house, and so they had decided, hey, even though there's only a few spots leaking, we ended up replacing all the water lines in their home. Thankfully, they had an unfinished basement, which means 95% of our job was all exposed walls, so we didn't have to cut into the house at all. It was very simple. We were able to run all the water lines. Upstairs, where the water lines came through, we had to drill a couple of small holes, but those were very easy cosmetic fixes, and so to restore the house after we were done on that particular project, it was extremely simple. They had hardly anything to do afterwards, and so I was really happy about that one. That's rare. Like, that's rare that it works out that way. But yeah, but it was very, very old. So those materials are the oldest that you'll see. Typically, you used to find back in the day wooden sewers, which was crazy. And so if you find one today, it's like hitting gold. Maybe the opposite of gold, but it's kind of crazy to see because the oldest ones that we see now are typically cast iron pipes.
Well, because I can only imagine with a wood sewer system how disgusting and corroded that is. Wood doesn't stand up to time.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't stand up very well.
Especially not to water and the elements.
Yeah, but neither does cast iron.
Yeah.
Right? Cast iron, if you've ever had a pot, you ever gone camping and do a little Dutch oven, you leave a little bit of water overnight, it's completely rusted. And imagine after 60, 70, 80 years.
That's true.
Or 100 years in this case. It's amazing.
I can't imagine. Okay. Our next question, what's the difference between different kinds of pipes, such as like PEX or PVC, copper, steel, cast iron?
So the biggest difference is, number one, is going to be materials, right? Are they plastic? Are they metal material? Really where you see is application. So each one has a different application. We still use metal pipes to this day. In commercial buildings, for noise insulation, we use cast iron drain lines. And that stops the noise from coming through. So when someone flushes the toilet on a plastic pipe, you hear the flush, you hear the water flow, but on cast iron, you won't. And so if you're in a nice office building and you don't want to hear that stuff, or if you're in a nice studio like we are here, you want cast iron drain lines so that you can't hear the flush of the toilet while you're recording a video.
But they're going to corrode.
Correct. So they require more maintenance.
Yikes.
But it's all comes down to application. What is it being used for? And at that point, you can pick the best material for that job.
So when did the system start changing over to like use newer materials?
So in the late 70s is whenever plastics started becoming a very common and normal thing to see.
And started replacing cast iron, galvanized steel, and copper.
Yeah, and clay lines and concrete and yeah, all this stuff, yeah. Oh yeah, clay pots. Imagine a clay pot being your sewer line. It's not the best thing, but we used to have clay lines, yes.
What are the challenges associated with aging sewer infrastructure? Like, what can property owners do to make sure that they're not spending lump sums of money in the long run, even if they know they have aging sewer lines.
So the biggest thing about aging sewer lines are just joint health. Just like as we get older, we got to take care of our joints. Usually at the point of a connection is where you'll find an issue. And so you want to be able to look inside of those pipes and look at where the two connect and make sure that that connection is staying solid. Whenever that connection starts to shift, that's whenever it creates problems. And so thankfully with Action, we do provide a membership. And part of that membership, you get a free camera inspection on your sewer line. And so we go in with the camera and we're able to look and see every single point of connection to make sure that, number one, it's still intact. Number two, we don't have anything intruding like tree roots or anything like that. There's no breaks or cracks in the line. And so we want to make sure that those joints are still intact, still holding together. They're not shifting, they're not broken, nothing is coming into them. Yeah, that's typically where we find the most challenges. And the camera inspection is going to be your best way to make sure that you're not spending thousands and thousands of dollars on not only replacing your sewer, but also avoiding those damages to your house.
Absolutely. I can see how important that would be.
Yeah.
I think this is our last question. How do emerging technologies such as smart sensors and predictive analytics enhance our ability to monitor and manage sewer systems and prevent backups and flooding?
So depending on your water district, there's some that actually provide usage reports, like daily usage reports. They'll say, hey, today you use this much, or warning, you're using way more water than usual, and you could just be washing your car, but they're letting you know that you might have a leak somewhere in your house. And so it's pretty cool that they do that. And even more dialed in, there are these things called smart valves. Those smart valves will actually learn the flow of water in your house, when you do things, how you do it. And then if there is a leak, it will detect it and it will shut itself off so that you don't flood your house.
I can see that being a little annoying though. I mean, your smart valve just like shut itself off and you're like, why isn't my shower working? But then you call a plumber anyways, so.
Well, then you just go into your app and you say, hey.
There's an app?
Of course there's an app for that. There's an app for that, yeah. You go into your app, and Moen makes one of the best in the business. Mm-hmm. It's called the Moen Flow. Sorry about that. And it's great. It's so smart. It's way smarter than me, okay? Mm-hmm. It's going to know that you're showering. It's not going to think that you're flooding your house.
Maybe what if someone who showers a lot decides they want to take a bath suddenly?
Yeah, that's going to be perfectly fine.
It's gonna know that you're taking a bath.
It can sense that. Yep.
Okay.
It'll know it. And if for some reason it shuts off, again, just grab your phone and turn it back on and say, yes, that's fine. I'm actually taking a bath.
Okay, the last thing I'm going to do here today is I'm going to read a 5-star review that pertains to you. So, this one is from Kevin T. I called to request an estimate in the afternoon, and they were able to send out someone that same day. Austin was professional and explained his recommendations and why they were the best solution to solve our problem. Highly recommend.
Thank you, Kevin T. Actually, Kevin's a great guy. I remember that house.
Yeah.
That was a late night.
That was a late night?
Yeah. I didn't get home till like 10 p.m., but thankfully me and Kevin are actually neighbors.
Oh, really?
And his daughter is so sweet. During the visit, she followed me around the entire house as I was filling things out. She wrote me a little card. And then
that's really cute.
It broke my heart because she was so cute. I have 4 boys. I don't have daughters. And so it was just the sweetest thing in the world. But yeah, Kevin's a great guy. He's got a beautiful family.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, for taking action and making connections. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see you soon.